For 40 years she was my best friend. The one person I trusted more than anyone else in the world. Yesterday I discovered she had been destroying my life the entire time. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I am 62 years old, and this is my true story. If this story resonates with you, please subscribe and turn on notifications. New true stories come out every single day. And if you have your own story you've never told anyone, you're safe here. Leave a comment below. It started with a single letter I found hidden in an old box in the attic. The handwriting was painfully familiar. It belonged to Margaret, the woman I had called my closest friend for 4 decades. The letter was short, but every word felt like a knife to the chest. I can't keep pretending anymore. Eleanor can never know about us. I'll make sure she never suspects a thing. I read it 3 times before my hand started shaking so badly I had to put the paper down. Margaret. The woman who held my hand at my husband's funeral. The woman who sat with me every evening after Thomas died, so I wouldn't be alone. The woman I trusted more than my own family. She had been having an affair with my husband for years. And that was only the beginning. For 40 years, Margaret was more than a friend to me. She was the person I called first when something good or bad happened. She helped me plan my wedding, stayed with me when Thomas was in the hospital, and brought food when I couldn't get out of bed after he died. We met when we were both young mothers. Our sons were the same age and played together. From that moment we became inseparable. We shared secrets, vacations, joys, and heartbreaks. I truly believed she was family. After Thomas died 6 months ago, Margaret was my rock. She came over almost every day. She helped me sort through his things. She listened when I cried. She told me she would always be there for me. I never suspected anything. But after finding that letter, I started looking closer. I went through old boxes, old photos, old letters. And the more I looked, the more I found. There were hotel receipts in Thomas's old work bag, with Margaret's handwriting on them. There were notes hidden in books she had given me over the years. There were even photos of the 2 of them together that she had carefully kept separate from our joint albums. The betrayal went much deeper than an affair. I discovered that Margaret had been quietly undermining me for decades. She had spread small lies about me to mutual friends. She had discouraged Thomas from buying me certain gifts. She had even convinced him not to leave me a larger share of his life insurance. Every kind act I thought she did for me had a shadow behind it. And the worst realization was this. While I was grieving my husband, the woman I trusted most was the one who had helped destroy my marriage. I spent the next few days trying to convince myself that there had to be another explanation. But the evidence kept piling up. I found more letters, more receipts, more photos hidden in places only Margaret would know about. Each new discovery felt like another piece of my life being taken away. I started watching her more carefully. I noticed how she would casually open drawers when she thought I wasn't looking. How she would comment on my jewelry when I wore it. How she always offered to help organize the guest room whenever I mentioned I was going to visit Lucas. One afternoon I decided to test her. I left a small envelope with $50 in the top drawer of the desk in the guest room. I told her I was going to the store and would be back in an hour. When I returned, the envelope was gone. That evening I installed a small hidden camera in the living room, pointed toward the desk. I hated myself for doing it, but I needed to know for sure. 2 days later I checked the footage. There she was. Margaret letting herself in with the spare key I had given her years ago. She moved straight to the desk, opened the drawer, took the envelope, counted the money, and slipped it into her pocket. Then she calmly continued to tidy up as if nothing had happened. I sat in front of the screen feeling sick to my stomach. The woman I had trusted for 40 years had been robbing me the entire time. And I had never suspected a thing. That realization hurt more than the theft itself. I was no longer just hurt. I was furious. And I was going to find out exactly how much she had taken from me. I didn't confront Margaret right away. Instead, I did what I should have done months earlier. I started digging. I went through every box, every drawer, every old letter and photo I could find. I checked bank statements, old emails, even the guest room where Margaret used to stay when she helped me after Thomas died. What I found was worse than I could have imagined. There were dozens of letters between Margaret and Thomas spanning almost 15 years. Love letters. Plans to meet. Even discussions about how to keep me in the dark. In one letter, Thomas wrote, "Eleanor is too trusting. She'll never suspect us." But the worst discovery came from a small locked box in the back of the attic. Inside were copies of documents Thomas had signed before his death. He had quietly transferred large sums of money to Margaret over the years. He had also named her as a beneficiary on one of his smaller life insurance policies. And there was a letter from Thomas to Margaret written just 2 weeks before the accident. "If anything happens to me, make sure Eleanor never finds out about us. Take care of yourself with what I left you." I sat on the attic floor surrounded by the evidence of their betrayal, and felt something inside me finally snap. The woman I had called my best friend for 40 years had been sleeping with my husband, stealing from me, and lying to my face while I grieved him. I printed everything. I made copies. I took photos of every letter and document. Then I drove to Margaret's house. She opened the door with her usual warm smile. "Eleanor. What a surprise. Come in, I just made coffee." I stepped inside and placed the folder on her kitchen table. "I know everything," I said quietly. Margaret's smile froze. I opened the folder and laid out the letters one by one. The pawn tickets. The bank transfers. The love notes. The final letter from Thomas. For a long moment she just stared at the papers. Then her shoulders sagged. "I never meant for it to go this far," she whispered. I looked at her, the woman I had trusted more than anyone, and felt nothing but cold clarity. "You slept with my husband for 15 years, I said. "You stole from me while I was grieving. You sat with me every night after he died and comforted me while knowing you were the reason my marriage was broken. And you still call yourself my friend." Margaret started crying. "I loved him," she said. "And I loved you. I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did," I replied. "Every single day for 40 years. She reached for my hand. I pulled it away. "I want you out of my life," I said. "I want you to stay away from me. And if I ever see you near my house again, I will go to the police with everything I have." Margaret looked at me with tears running down her face. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I looked at her one last time. "So am I said. "I'm sorry I ever trusted you." I walked out of her house and didn't look back. That was the moment the woman I had been for 40 years finally died. And a new Eleanor was born. The next few weeks were some of the hardest of my life. I changed the locks on my house the same day I left Margaret's kitchen. I canceled the spare key I had given her years ago. I removed her from every part of my life I could control. I told Lucas what I had discovered. He was shocked, but not as shocked as I expected. He admitted that he had always felt something was off between Margaret and his father, but he never wanted to believe it. I didn't cry much anymore. The tears had dried up. What was left was a cold, quiet anger and a strange sense of clarity. I went through every photo album, every letter, every gift Margaret had ever given me. I threw away anything that came from her. I deleted every message, every photo of us together. I blocked her number. I blocked her on social media. I wanted her gone from my life completely. The hardest part was realizing how much I had shared with her. My fears, my insecurities, my dreams. She had used all of it against me for years. But I didn't let that destroy me. Instead, I started rebuilding. I joined a support group for women who had been betrayed by close friends. I started writing in a journal every day. I began taking long walks in the morning and cooking meals just for myself. Small things, but they felt like victories. For the first time in 40 years, I was living without the shadow of someone who was secretly working against me. It was painful. It was also liberating. I am still 62 years old. I still live in the same house. I still drink my tea on the porch swing every morning. But I am no longer the woman who trusted too easily. I learned that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people we let closest to our hearts. Margaret took 40 years of my trust and turned it into a weapon. But I took that pain and turned it into strength. I no longer open my door to everyone who smiles at me. I no longer share my deepest fears with people until they have earned my trust over time. I no longer confuse kindness with loyalty. I am learning to protect myself. I am learning that it is okay to be careful with my heart. And I am learning that I am enough, even without the people I thought I needed most. Some friendships end with a fight. Mine ended with the quiet realization that the person I loved like a sister had been my quiet enemy for decades. I don't hate her anymore. I pity her. Because while she spent 40 years trying to take pieces of my life, I spent those same 40 years building a life she could never touch. I am still here. I am still standing. And I am finally free. Life did not return to what it was before. It settled into something quieter, but also something truer. I am still 62 years old. I still live in the same house. I still drink my tea on the porch swing every morning. But I no longer walk through these rooms carrying the weight of a friendship I thought was real. I learned that betrayal doesn't always come from enemies. Sometimes it comes from the people we let closest to our hearts. For 40 years, I gave Margaret my trust, my secrets, my vulnerability. I believed she was my safe place. In the end, she used every piece of me against me. The hardest lesson was realizing that love and loyalty are not the same thing. You can love someone deeply and still allow them to destroy you if you never set boundaries. I no longer open my door to everyone who smiles at me. I no longer share my deepest fears with people until they have earned my trust over time. I no longer confuse kindness with loyalty. I am learning to protect myself. I am learning that it is okay to be careful with my heart. And I am learning that I am enough, even without the people I thought I needed most. Some friendships end with a fight. Mine ended with the quiet realization that the person I loved like a sister had been my quiet enemy for decades. I don't hate her anymore. I pity her. Because while she spent 40 years trying to take pieces of my life, I spent those same 40 years building a life she could never touch. I am still here. I am still standing. And I am finally free. This was my true story. If you're watching right now and you've ever been betrayed by someone you trusted completely, if you've ever given your heart to a friend only to discover they were quietly working against you, if you're carrying pain from a relationship you thought was safe, you are not alone. Leave a comment below and tell me, have you ever discovered that someone you loved was secretly hurting you? If this story moved you, please subscribe and turn on notifications. New true stories come out every single day. You never know which one might be the story you needed to hear. Thank you for listening to my truth. I'm Eleanor, and this is her true story.